What's up, dude?
Hey, man. Nice of you to join us right on time.
Lee, my hand to God. It was 10 to 3, and I was like, oh, I'm going to get this all set up, ready to go. I'm going to send Lee the link a couple minutes before 3. StreamYard wasn't recognizing my computer, so I had to reboot the whole thing.
Nice of you to put down your Xbox controller for 3 minutes.
I'm not a gamer. I'm not a gamer.
No, me neither. I don't know when I started the Graham is lazy roast battle, but I don't know where it came from, but I'm enjoying it.
It's fun. It's a fun roast battle. I'm this gamer slacker that's just lying around doing bong rips. It's funny to me. So yes,
is that a Manchester United outfit?
No, it's Major League Soccer's. It's their All-Star jersey from several years ago. I just wanted an innocuous MLS jersey. If I just go to see some games and it's a team, I've always been a Galaxy fan, but then when the LAFC opened up their stadium, it's really fun. And I like that team and they're pretty, but whatever, the world's collapsing anyway. So
I don't even understand the words you're saying. So something about galaxies. I mean, I like astronomy. Was that what we were talking about?
Yes, this is an astronomy-based soccer jersey. This is what this is, and it's really
there is a football player in the UK named Lee Camp that has been around for. It's like he never dies. He's like been playing for the past 20 years, and so I get all his Google alerts.
Is he on Twitter, or do you just get people saying? Great game, Lee, or whatever. Do you get that? Like,
I think he was on Twitter, but I like that he had to get something else because he obviously couldn't get Lee Camp, and I was like, yeah, motherfucker. His was like Lee Camp's football or something.
Lee Camp's football. That's what it was. Lee Camp's. We're here with Lee Camp's football. Well, you said Manchester United, so then I took that as maybe an invitation that you follow soccer, but
that I know something. But you've just stumbled upon the point, the main thing that has kept my career alive this entire time is I know one fact and I throw it out very confidently, and then I don't answer any further questions, and I pretend my computer crashed.
Yeah, you just freeze up like.
Yeah.
I've done that. Have you ever done
soccer foot kick?
Soccer yellow card. Have you ever done that on the phone? Be honest, where you're talking to somebody and maybe it's annoying and you just go, I can't, like the phone's cutting out and then hang up.
I don't think I've ever tried the fake cutting in and out, but I will just hang up on people and I pretend what happened? What happened?
Oh, we got disconnected. Like, yeah, this phone call is annoying. Just hang up and then send a text. Oh, I don't know. We got disconnected. Let's connect next week or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I can't get through. Let's never talk again. That'd be great.
I'm stuck in a canyon for like the next 20 years. So don't ever call me.
I just moved to, the shack the Unabomber used to live in. I just moved there because it was available and not good cell reception out here.
I am living on a magnet farm and I can't
where they farm magnets.
So it's hurting my phone, this magnet farm. So I don't know.
Now I'm picturing, quote unquote eco terrorists just opening the gates and being like, go free. And the magnets just sitting there.
That's what that's what I want to talk about today is freeing magnets from their shackles of an eco farm. I don't even know how magnets are made, but I'm sure they're on a farm, right?
If you ask me how magnets work, my computer will shut down. You've reached the extent of my knowledge. I know that they can make things float, and if we ever get a fucking hoverboard, that will be how we do it. But what the fuck, people? Where's the hoverboard?
Where is the hoverboard? That's probably one of our big secrets today is why hasn't that been unleashed on the American people, the hoverboard?
I mean, I feel like they're hiding it, and Boston Dynamics is going to put out one of those terrifying robots on a hoverboard all at once. They're going to be like, yeah, these robots that can kill you instantly, they're real, and they're all on hoverboards.
Dude, that's why it's like, you know, when I was a kid, it was like, oh, they're going to have jetpacks by the year 2000. And they went, no, we're not giving up support of the air. We're not giving up air support. So because they, like, imagine if just anyone could have a jetpack or a hoverboard right now. They just fly up over the police and just, you know.
Did you watch, there's a documentary out there about this guy who was obsessed with flying the first jetpack, and he had a bunch of catastrophes. I mean, he went straight into the middle of the fucking bay in Sydney, Australia, and he nearly drowned because he's got this, whatever it is, 900 pounds of fuel on his back. And then it just burned half of him. Like, he almost died, but then he finally, at the end of it, he finally does it. And he like flies around the Statue of Liberty on his little jetpack. It's pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, good for him that he went from Sydney, Australia to New York on a jetpack.
And as I recall, half of the movie is about, like, he never sees his kids. He's got 2 little girls or something, and they're just like, where's Daddy? Daddy is committed to jetpacking. We're sorry. And I love, it's like this amazing thing. I always really respect the fathers, it seems to be mostly fathers, that are able to, like, talk their family and, like, look, Daddy has to do this. Daddy has to go around the world to see if he can fly up in the air for a minute.
It's in essence going, Daddy's nuts. And Daddy has to do this thing that really they probably already figured out at NASA, but he just wants to do it himself. So
right, Daddy's trying to do it. You know, luckily he had $1 million to blow, and you girls aren't going to college, but Daddy's going to be up in the air for a solid 38 seconds. That's their estimation. 38 seconds.
And when he finally did it, were his daughters just like, oh, whatever, man? Like,
yeah. By then they're like 19, and they're like, you missed it. We're not kids anymore. You missed it.
This isn't exciting, Dad. You did this thing that someone else is already doing it or whatever. So, all right. So let's get into government secrets, buddy.
Do it, man.
Welcome to Government Secrets, episode, I want to say 14. That's the sound of my jetpack.
Pretty sure it's 12.
Oh, it's 12? Shit.
But
I thought we were at 13 last week.
Really?
I know we could look this up.
I could find out in like 3 seconds, I think.
I know there's a place where we could look this up, like literally where we post, well, our producer, Sammy she does a fantastic job, but
all right. It looks like, assuming our website is updated, Libsyn is updated, it looks like we're both wrong. It was, we are on 13.
Oh, today's 13.
Yeah.
Government Secrets 13B. Because I think we called last week 13, didn't we?
I don't know, man. But one of these days, I think the moment we crack the code on being able to figure out what number episode it is, I'm pretty sure that's when the millions of listeners will all tune in instantaneously.
When we crack the code of just checking Libsyn 2 minutes before we start today. All right. So do you want to start us off, Lee? I know you wanted to discuss there's a little election that happened in South America, I believe.
Yeah. Good old Bolivia. Bolivia is pretty incredible, and there's still some yet to be seen. I mean, you know, I guess people have to wait and see what the military will do. But Bolivia basically voted out their U.S.-backed coup after a year in power. It's pretty incredible. For those who haven't been following it all, roughly a year ago, there was an election. Evo Morales, the much loved socialist leader, somewhat socialist leader, who's the party's called Movement Towards Socialism, and MAS are the Spanish initials. And he won, but it was, you know, I don't know if it was like 5 or 10 percentage points, 5 percentage points. It wasn't some landslide, but he won. But they quickly, and this is, you know, this is a U.S. government kind of playbook, and the U.S. government was at least somewhat involved in the advisory side of things. I mean, they weren't sending like U.S. troops down there or anything, but the U.S. was excited about this coup. They basically announced that the election was not legitimate, and then the U.S. media, New York Times, etc., then jump on that. AP is another one. Associated Press does that very quickly. Jumps on and says, "Oh yeah, election not legitimate. Evo Morales stole it. There's things going on. There's shenanigans. There's trickery. There's tomfoolery in the election count." And
shenanigans that we didn't do. So
yeah, we were uninvolved. But that actually has a big impact when the mainstream media, some of the biggest mainstream media outlets in the world, like Associated Press, make those announcements. It gets people to start thinking it's true. And so the far right wing, conservative, psycho Christian, group came storming into the Capitol, and they got I think it seems likely they paid off the top brass of the military, and got the military to basically say, oh yeah, Evo Morales needs to go. So Evo Morales had to flee the country. Also mayors, and this is something else the mainstream media won't talk about, is the amount of violence involved. Mayors that were with his party, MAS, were dragged out of their houses. They were beaten. They had their hair shaved off in the middle of town to humiliate them. Just every level of fascist violence was done. And these people took over, and I can't remember her name at the moment, but I had it here. Oh, I know where it is. Agnes Murillo was the interim president, and she came into the Capitol and took a photo with a giant Bible. I've never understood why the hardcore Christians, like, the Bible becomes like, I don't know, penis size. They're like, this one's the biggest. So
she brought in basically a monster truck of Bibles.
Yeah, they run in with a giant Bible and take photos and say, we've gotten rid of the tyrant not Maduro, we'll get to him in a minute, but Evo Morales. And so the election, because she was just supposed to be the interim president for a couple of months, they kept looking at the polling and seeing that they were going to get stomped, like this new far-right fascist government that wanted to return the oligarchy of old back to ruling over Bolivia was not doing well in the polls. So they kept pushing back the election, thinking they could find new ways to eventually win this thing. And finally, the election happened yesterday, and Evo Morales' party, they didn't allow Evo Morales to run, but Evo Morales' party won by basically a landslide. They got 52%. The next closest was 31%, which was the far-right Coup party. And then another guy, Camacho, who I think is also far-right, got 14%. But it was enough that there's not a runoff. It's over. She's conceded. The people of Bolivia are fucking celebrating in the streets. And there's also an important racial aspect to this. Bolivia is majority indigenous. Evo Morales was the first indigenous president of the country, because before then you had kind of a more white, I don't want to say white, but more white kind of oligarchy that ran things like an imperial oligarchy. And he was the first indigenous leader of the country. So the indigenous basically have their country back.
That's amazing. I mean, it's really like, it's nice to get some good news because, and I don't know, it gives us hope. I mean, and when that, when this woman lost, I was really hoping she could just, take Juan Guaido with her on her way out, another CIA puppet, just like,
yep.
And also, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Iran's sanctions just expire?
I wasn't following that. I know Trump and Pompeo put new sanctions on them recently, but
great.
I don't know if something expired. I guarantee Trump and Pompeo are not going to let them expire.
They're not going to let them expire, yeah, because it's like I love seeing the CIA just take a loss here. The people just rose up and said no. I mean, it's really, and it's powerful.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's incredible. As I said at the beginning, there's a lot yet to be told. Whether this will be a peaceful transition of power, whether the U.S. will do more to try and stop this from happening. I assume that if it doesn't happen today, it'll probably happen within the next few months. That they'll put more sanctions on Bolivia to try and basically just destroy their country, cause a lot of hardship as they've done in Venezuela. We'll get to Venezuela in a second, but I wanted to give something that can't be understated is how much our ruling elite, both parties, and our media elite, our so-called liberal media, all celebrated when a socialist leader who cut poverty by, I think over 50%, cut extreme poverty, can nearly completely, just took people and rose them up and allowed them to have a feasible existence in his country. And he nationalized the lithium mines, which was also very important. I'll get to something else about that in a second. But they all celebrated. The liberal elite, the fucking Democrats, the Republicans, Trump, they all fucking celebrated that a far-right fascist coup had taken place in Bolivia a year ago. And I thought I'd read the statement from the Washington, from the White House on the resignation of Bolivian President Evo Morales. So this is November 11th, 2019. Trump and his goons said the resignation yesterday of Bolivian President Evo Morales is a significant moment for democracy in the Western Hemisphere. Don't you love that when a coup happens and they call it democracy?
Oh, did Nancy Pelosi stand up and clap like she did when they both recognized Juan Guaido at the State of the Union?
I'm sure she probably, jizzed herself. After nearly 14 years and his recent attempt to override the Bolivian constitution and the will of the people, which is horseshit. I mean, the people were voting for him. Even if it was close enough for a runoff, he still was winning the vote. Morales' departure preserves democracy and paves the way for the Bolivian people to have their voices heard. Yes, as we crush democracy, let us say this shows the people's voices are heard. The U.S., I'm continuing the statement, the U.S. applauds the Bolivian people for demanding freedom and the Bolivian military for abiding by its oath to protect not just a single person, but Bolivia's constitution. Yes, the military's oath to, take payoffs in order to switch sides. These events send a strong signal to the illegitimate regimes in Venezuela and Nicaragua that democracy and the will of the people will always prevail. We are now one step closer to a completely democratic, prosperous, and free Western Hemisphere that we can exploit as much as possible. I added that last part.
Oh, God forbid the people of a country get to democratically elect somebody and that leader gets to do what they want with their resources. So that's how great our country was a year ago.
Yeah. And so I mentioned the lithium mines. Bolivia is one of the biggest holders of lithium resources, and those have become more and more important with electric batteries and lithium batteries and everything. I mean, batteries for electric cars and things. So obviously it'd be very important to, let's say, Tesla and Elon Musk. And so someone brought this up, how he must be excited about the lithium coup many people called it the lithium coup in Bolivia. And Elon Musk's response on Twitter, which he has now deleted or afterwards deleted, was, "We'll coup who we want to coup. Deal with it."
Yeah. This is how awful these ruling class is. I know he makes cool cars, but he is a parasite. What a detestable parasite. The 1% are soulless maggots. This is science now. They are soulless maggots who are the worst. We'll coup who we want just so he can make a profit. This is how we think. Doesn't care how many people's lives he's ruined, as long as, hey, my stock portfolio and I can, make more money than Bezos or whatever his stupid, he's got a dumb looking face. So it's so awful. And America the government just lies at every turn and just anytime. And then, there'll be people who will say, well, Evo Morales did this, or this, or whatever. Okay, I don't know, maybe, but it's usually the people who are of the like mainly European ruling oligarch, the elites of those countries are usually the ones that are in favor of these CIA-backed puppets and coups, because the socialist wanted to even the power out, wanted to even the money out to the people. And again, like it's not. I mean, most of South America, like North America, was colonized by Europeans, and so indigenous people had their land and their rights and everything taken away, and God forbid they get some of it back.
Yeah, there's definitely a racial aspect to this, and it's the same in Venezuela. The only reporting I saw on this was Greg Palast did some good reporting on this, but the fact that basically the Maduro Chavez movement in the Bolivarian Revolution in Venezuela is kind of the return of the indigenous indigenous related people to control the country after they've been taken over, or the oligarchy ruled over them for many years. And there is actually a noticeable skin color difference. Maduro and his administration and everything are noticeably darker than the very rather white oligarchy and coup masters that are trying to bring him down. The one exception is Juan Guaido, who also has darker skin, but that's kind of why they picked him, is because it looks too bad to have a bright white guy trying to bring down the Venezuelan government. So he's kind of the puppet that he's the exception that proves the rule. But a lot of people don't realize that there is a racial aspect to the endless coups we're trying to create in Venezuela, which we could also, if we have a minute, go through some of what's going on in Venezuela.
Yeah, let's go through that because it definitely relates. I mean, it's sort of this very similar, as we've talked about on this show, very similar American, empire CIA playbook. Chavez came to power in the late 90s, democratically elected, wanted to socialize the oil. Oh, whoops, you can't do that with the number one oil reserves in the world. So now he suddenly became the enemy. So walk through that.
Yeah, I mean, Chavez, not only was it the fact that we lost our ability to gain all the profits of their oil reserves, but it's also, the threat of the good example. It's if you have a country that gives everybody, free college, free housing, he basically ended extreme poverty. He ended hunger in the country. He cut regular poverty, ended extreme poverty, cut regular poverty by 50%. It's just, and people see that, people in America see that and say, why can't we have healthcare? Why can't we have college education?
And why are we hurting? Why are we interfering? We're all about, freedom and all this. Why are we interfering with this? Why? And why are we interfering with another country's way to do business? And why, like you say, why can't the richest country in the history of the world have all these nice things? Why can't we have? I mean, this country should be a beacon of light for the whole world. It should be.
The Democrats are working on it. You just got to give them a chance, okay?
Right. 2024. Well, so we'll let Biden and then we'll pull him to the left, which has never happened. And but then don't be too critical of him because we need it in the 2022 midterms. And then if we take over the Senate, then in 2024, then we'll get a real thing. And then, well, if that doesn't happen, but in 2026, then we'll get that midterm. And then 2028. That's when, really...
the Democrats are going to solve climate change in 2054, just after it becomes normal to scramble an egg on your face as you walk outside.
They'll do it from their space station while the rest of us down here just burn to death. That's what'll happen.
If you want to know where Biden stands on Venezuela and the others. This is September 23rd. Biden took some time out of his day. Very busy schedule, very busy schedule. The man does not have much time. And yet he paused. He paused from rubbing, some sort of balm on his groin so he can feel again. He paused and he tweeted out, as Juan Guaido speaks about the Venezuelan humanitarian crisis and the crimes against humanity perpetrated by Maduro, I reaffirm my commitment to stand with the Venezuelan people. A Biden-Harris administration will always champion democracy and human rights around the world. Graham, does that not move you? I mean, are you not crying right now?
I mean, Biden's ball cream is really what was the most inspirational thing about that. It's like they just keep reading the same script in the same words, and like, who's buying this? I don't know. I mean, I can't. It's crazy to me.
I mean, to me, it's so disgusting. Not just that he has those stances, because it's utter horseshit. It's like the human rights violations are being done by us with our sanctions. The people in Venezuela are being crushed by our sanctions. Venezuela can't get oil easily, can't get medicine easily. They're paying 3 times, they're going broke, and they're paying 3 times as much for COVID-19 treatments, medication, because of us. And, the estimates are that in the past 3-4 years, our sanctions, our economic war on them have killed between 40 and 100,000 people in their country. And before that, before these gut-wrenching sanctions, they had ended extreme poverty in the country. So it's night and day. And what drives me nuts is not even just that he holds these insane positions, Biden, but that he or his administration, his campaign, whoever runs his fucking Twitter, has decided, we really need to put time aside to stand with a fucking idiot frat boy coup leader that we're propping up and put forward those ideas on Twitter.
Yeah, but at least it's good to know he's not going to ban fracking. At least we have that to look forward to. It's just mind-numbing that the neoliberals buy this shit. And like, look, when a Democrat goes to war, they're all for it. When they sell and look, the one thing that gets the bipartisan support and the media loves to lock in line with is war and the freedom fighters of the people. And the thing too, and they always show, like in Venezuela, they look at these, they would push this thing of like, there's the shelves are empty. And then you get people like from the gray zone going down there saying, no, they're not. And then it's like, well, look, we just had empty shelves when the pandemic first hit. We're going to have more of them. We're having, these crimes against humanity. You mean like snatching up protesters in an unmarked van, like what happened in Portland? Or we shot water at people, Standing Rock protesters in 30-degree weather? Is that
the human rights violations that only go on in other countries? And Joe Biden specifically calls out Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Bolivia. Why does he and the Trump administration and others pick those 3 countries? Why is it those 3 countries? Meanwhile, you have, a fucking fascist leader in Brazil. You have all the horror show going on in Colombia. But those are our allies, and those people are somewhat U.S. puppets and give us whatever we want. And so those aren't the ones who have the so-called human rights violations. They also brought charges or indictments or whatever against Maduro for drug trafficking. Meanwhile, I believe it was the DEA, but it was a government agency that had released a map of where all the drug trafficking journeys and sea vessels are going and coming from. And it's like 2% come from Venezuela. The other, like 98% come from Colombia and Mexico. It's not fucking Venezuela, but they need to say that to pretend this coup and to give. I know earlier I said I was going to give some more details about Venezuela for those who haven't really been following. Chavez died. We almost openly created a coup against Chavez when he was in power. We actually kidnapped him or helped kidnap him. Brought him out of power for about 1 day or 2 days, but the people stood up in such a way that it was impossible to keep him out. The military refused to turn, and so he was only out of power for like 2 days in the U.S. created coup under Bush. So then he's back in power, and we do everything we can to try and crush him, destroy him, call him a dictator. Meanwhile, our MSNBC calls Trump a fascist leader, but only Maduro is a dictator, not the one they're calling a fascist leader. It's totally insane. Chavez then dies, and his successor, Maduro, takes over. We continue our coup plotting against them. We seemed to at least be advising the attempted bombing of him with a drone during one of his speeches. Literally, a small drone flies in front of the whole crowd and explodes, 10 feet from him or whatever, and security, tackles him to cover him up or whatever. And so he survived, but it seems likely the U.S. played a role in that. And then we just announced that this guy, Juan Guaido, who was part of the opposition, but he'd only been elected to a small, little basically city in Venezuela. So 80% of the country never heard of this guy. He steps up and says, I am the new president of Venezuela. And 80% of Venezuela goes, who?
Who are you?
Yeah. What? We've never voted for you. And the U.S. government, because this was all part of a U.S. plan. By the way, Juan Guaido went to Georgetown, studied under a former IMF banking chief while he was there. And so he is just American trained, not born and bred, but trained and propped up. And immediately as he says, I'm president, the U.S. goes, yes, Juan Guaido is president. And we pressure, it gets up to I can't remember, it was 50, I think it was 50 countries that we pressured into acknowledging Guaido as president of Venezuela with 0 votes and no military backing him and most of the people not knowing who he was. And so we get 50 countries out of the 200 roughly in the world. And now that number is down to something like 19 countries still acknowledge Guaido as the president of Venezuela because he has almost no support. He tried multiple times to create a military coup. He stepped up night after night. Pompeo would tweet out, oh my God, look at what's going on in Venezuela. They had their ridiculous concert for aid for the humanitarian victims in Venezuela, which are, if there are any, it's because of us. It's not their fault. And they had the dumb concert funded by Richard Branson standing out there being like, help the people of Venezuela. It's all been so fucking disgusting and preposterous. And Guaido's still running around, doing a U.S. funded world tour. Oh, by the way, all the money that he was given because it was stolen by the U.S., money that was in the U.S. that belonged to Venezuelan officials. All the money, it's just goes missing. I mean, millions of dollars has gone missing to Guaido and his fucking goons. And the U.S. is just yeah, it's going great.
It's unreal because you talk about Bolsonaro in Brazil, who is literally just rounding up gay people. He's so awful and fascist, but we don't have a problem with him because he plays ball with us. And then again, like you say, if a socialist gets to power and turns a country around and takes it out of the hands of the oligarchs, they're like, woo, we can't let Americans get that idea. No way can we let Americans get that idea. We don't want Americans to think they could actually have nice things. We need Americans to fight with each other so that the Hamptons stay protected. Yeah. And then, soulless maggots like Bezos and whatever else can coup who they want to coup. So it's so hypocritical. It's so hypocritical what we do. And I really wonder if because there is oil and minerals and stuff that is needed and obviously trade routes that, I wonder if they're looking to try to destabilize the whole region because, obviously there's refugees. I'm talking to somebody who's in a friend who has a friend in Bogota, and they're like, Bogota has really kind of been revitalized since the drug wars and all that stuff. And they have digital nomad visas and high-speed internet, but it's been really overrun by refugees from Venezuela because we've destabilized that country and sent them there. And so I wonder if the long con is to just destabilize the whole region so we can just say, oh, here comes America, man. We're gonna.
Well, generally speaking, in our coup attempts, we would love to have a sturdy puppet in place there. So, like in Bolivia, we wanted this right wing fascist, these right wing fascists to get in power and do everything for us. By the way, while they were in power, in that year they were in power, they allowed the IMF back into the country, took IMF loans. And whereas Bolivia had basically succeeded in paying off and getting rid of the IMF, getting rid of the economic fucking boot on their throats. But generally, we want a kind of stable puppet that'll do whatever the fuck we want. But we're also fine. The U.S. government is also fine with, it ended up in a failed state. And guess what? We still get the lithium. So it's like, you see that kind of thing in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, where it's just been torn shred by shred with fucking open slave markets now going on in Libya. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's just run by various warlords. And we're kind of fine with that. I mean, if you ask these politicians in an interview, they'll go, oh, yeah, it's kind of sad what's going on in Libya. But in truth, it's like, as long as we got rid of the guy, in this case, Gaddafi, who was creating, his own thing for Libyans and pushing out the American, grasp, pushing out our tentacles. As long as we get rid of him, who cares if it all collapses?
Yeah, it's like it's pretty insane. So, since that's, unless there's more to discuss, I wanted to talk about.
No, let's move on. I mean, we could go down the list of coups for the next 4 years, but we'll save some for next time.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, that's going to always used to be a staple on the show is coups. Government secret segment number 2. So I wanted to talk about what's going on. Well, first of all, what's going on in Thailand and sort of the history of it. So Thailand apparently has been having huge mass protests against, it's a monarchy apparently that rules in Thailand, and they're wanting and they're largely peaceful protests, and they're wanting more democratic rights and freedoms in Thailand, because I think Thailand's economy has sort of upticked a little bit. And so I wanted to go into the history of how America has treated.
I know almost nothing about Thailand, so you can make up whatever you want.
Thailand has always been a land of magical smoothies. This is what I wanted. I just did a little research on. Obviously, the CIA was involved in Thailand during the 60s and 70s because of its proximity to Vietnam. So Thailand was among the countries carpeted in a CIA crypto espionage. And it's not, don't be confused with cryptocurrency. South American military, it ties into what we were talking about today. Dictatorships combined forces in the late 1970s on a continent-wide crackdown they called Operation Condor against perceived threats to their rule. Okay. It was part of a broader wave of violence in which nuns and priests were imprisoned, dissidents were tossed out of airplanes, and thousands of victims were disappeared. To coordinate this brutal campaign, Argentina, Chile, and other countries established a secret communications network using encryption machines from a Swiss company called Crypto AG. So again, this is for another episode, but we kind of helped Pinochet, butcher people in soccer stadiums. So, I mean, look, we've done so many great things.
Well, it means we can go into these other countries with a real solid resume and say,
we do.
We're good at what we do.
We have a lot of experience. I mean, just a lot. We have great references.
Yeah. Talk to the people of Chile.
They call them up. They're going to love it. So this company, Crypto, this encryption company, was, guess what? Secretly owned by the CIA as part of a decades-long operation with West German intelligence. So fun. You might remember we've talked about Operation Paperclip, where we took a bunch of Nazis after World War II. And
we really, although we ended up having pushed to enter World War II, we really, a lot of Americans in the ruling class were kind of like, Nazis, not so bad. Not so bad.
They have a purpose.
Listen, they're hardworking. They're eager. There's a lot of positives there. Just saying.
They're meticulous. They keep really good records. But again, so the CIA, going back to World War II, so we had Operation Paperclip. We also had Operation, we talked about on this show several episodes ago, Operation Bloodstone, of how they would use ex-Nazis and put them into communist countries to try to destabilize them, most notably Russia, the Soviet Union and Yugoslavia and stuff like that. So again, CIA's long history of, they love working with Nazis. And so now they had some...
who doesn't? I used to have a sketch group with a bunch of Nazis. So who doesn't?
A sketch group? What was the name of the sketch group?
Adolf More Than We Can Chew.
I want to know, I wish I could know the name of the ones you went through in your head quickly. That's too offensive.
I was like, that may get me banned from life.
That one, people might not react to that one well. Adolf More Than We Can Chew. So great. That is the perfect sketch comedy troupe. Oh God.
Listen, best sketch group in the South. The South really loved us. We toured better in the South. We were big at the Chuckle Huts. You played Chuckle Huts? We were big at the Chuckle Huts.
Oh God, that one, Adolf More Than We Can Chew. God, is that brilliant? Oh, I love a good joke, sketch group, or improv troupe name. God, I love it. I just can't get enough of them. Oh, Sketch and Fetch It. That's another one a friend of mine. Which is just, this is so funny. Oh shit. Okay, so I can't wait for Adolf More Than We Can Chew to start doing live shows again. That's going to be fun. So
yeah, I mean, we had a tough time, and then rifts in the group broke up. Not with the Nazis. The Nazis are always good people. It was some of the other members. I tried to start something similar with Hitler. I hardly know her, but that group didn't go.
That didn't take off.
No, it didn't take off. Not as much.
Oh man, that's weird. So crypto actually was secretly owned by the CIA as a decades-long operation with West German intelligence. Obviously, some members of West German intelligence used to be Nazis. We can say that safely. The U.S. spy agency was, in effect, supplying rigged communications gear to some of South America's most brutal regimes, and as a result, in a unique position to know the extent of their atrocities.
So I don't know that you'll know the answer to this, but during this time, the U.S. government is claiming, oh, these people are horrible, but quietly we're supplying this crypto communications, or were we pretending these governments were awesome?
I think what it says is they were doing several things. They were propping up. The good old CIA is never just in one business. They were helping prop up these people, but then also using this encryption technology to spy on them and monitor them. So they knew how awful Pinochet was and then let him keep doing it, which is more American freedom. Documents indicate that more than 120 Contras used crypto AG encryption equipment from the 50s into the 2000s. The files don't include a comprehensive list, but identify at least 62 countries. You can see the list there, Thailand being one of them. So the CIA connection to Condor detailed in documents obtained by the Washington Post, as well as additional files unearthed by researchers at the National Security Archive in Washington. What the documents don't show is any substantial effort by U.S. spies agencies or senior officials privy to the intelligence to expose or stop human rights violations. hey, this is good intel to have. So, oh, the CIA is going to go, oh, this is awful. We need to stop this. They just went, nah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just good
fascinating stuff. What they're doing there with pulling off toenails is pretty fascinating stuff. Impressive stuff.
Hey, we're not judging. We're just, just FYI. That's all it was. Just some FYI.
We're just a fan of your work. Honestly, we're just a fan of your work.
Whether there were opportunities to act, I'm not even going to read that. It's so dumb. Of course, there are opportunities to act. So I want to get into the part about where it got into Operation Rubicon. So the crypto operation had triggered conversations among their peers about these issues, meaning the human rights violations, and concerns about the exposure of a long-held secret, as well as congratulatory notes on the accomplishments of Operation Rubicon, which fantastic. So just real quick, Operation Rubicon, the revelations about the CIA's involvement in crypto dubbed Operation Rubicon by the agency. So Operation Rubicon was, they used this crypto encryption thing, and when they discovered all these awful things, they didn't intervene. They just gave it a name, Operation Rubicon, which gotta love the CIA way they think. Just
also, what you said a moment ago was they started to worry about it would come out that there'd be this long-held secret. They didn't care that people were being tortured and killed. They just worried someone might accuse them of knowing later.
No, we're just worried about blowback, not saving anybody's lives. That's the that's the good old thing. So I mean, the story is like unbelievable, but I want to get into what happened in Thailand. So the security services of those countries established this communications network together using crude crypto encryption machines known as the CX52s. In 1977, the group upgraded to newer electronic models, according to the DIA report, which notes that Argentina provided halogen crypto H465 equipment to the name for the country's secret communications network. I'm not going to try to apply that last word. But here's shit. Where was it? I just said it a second ago. They did all this stuff in Central and South America and learned, obviously, from these evil empires in South America. So this thing goes on. Where is it? So this was just put in to talking, this is a Thailand paper, about how the CIA targeted all of these countries. So one of the things that they did then is they used this. So this, the reason I'm bringing this list back up is it's showing you all of the countries that, at least 120 countries that got this encryption equipment, Thailand being one of them. So one of the reasons that some people are theorizing today is that the CIA knew what Thailand's monarchy has done over the years and is allowing them to get away with it. Now the people are rising up today, and that is the sort of crux. There's obviously a lot of issues involved in what has happened in Thailand leading up to today. And again, I'm not a huge expert on Thailand or this region, but it's outlining how the CIA and what we talked about today with the other countries in Central and South America has done this all throughout the rest of Asia. You see Vietnam, Thailand, South Korea. Some of these countries are supposed allies, Japan, Indonesia, India, Burma, Bangladesh, which had a civil war. So it's like we've either helped atrocities happen or just kind of, stood by and went down. So like we were monitoring Indonesia. Indonesia had a really brutal dictator named Suharto in, I think, the 60s and 70s and even into the 80s, where people would just sort of disappear in Indonesia. He is one of those like disappear kind of people. And the CIA knew about it.
You don't mean like a magic trick, right? You mean you made it worse.
Yeah, Yeah, you know when David Blaine made the bridge disappear, or whatever. Kind of like
Blaine. He was like a David Blaine dictator.
Yeah, right. He was the Suharto was the David Blaine of dictators. That's what he did. So again, I just wanted to go into this because you look at this list and this map, you see how we have, and you also see, so you see China and Russia, we can't get entry into on this map. There's no, we didn't use it. So that's one of the reasons we're so mad at them and we don't like them, is because we can't get in there. We can't sell them our bullshit. We can't.
Yeah.
This is the CIA basically participating and or at least observing in all of these countries illegally and letting some countries and dictators do whatever they want and nothing. This is what the CIA has done. We don't help. We just make it worse. And
it reminds me of the articles that came out, or study that came out, that showed that the U.S. Provides aid to 70% of the world's dictators. And it's because most of them are doing good stuff for us. It's a business relationship, Sure, they might not have any democracy. Sure, they might lock anyone up who questions them. Sure, they might, kill people for having a meeting where you talk about another economic system. But they're selling us cheap goods.
Yep. We get cheap labor, we get the resources, we get to put a pipeline or a trade route or whatever, and we don't care. And that's the thing. And having just had Vanessa Beeley on the show last week, who exposed how fake the white helmets are not heroes, that they're through they work with ISIS and Al Qaeda. You've been aware of this and the OPCW and all this stuff. Yep. So
and I'm sure you covered how she's being trashed, but really anyone that even covers that story about how the white helmets are Western funded, and many of them are they'll be in one clip saving a child out of a building, and then they'll find another video of them as part of a jihadist group that's executing people in the streets. It's the same guy, and these are the heroes that we gave an Oscar to. But you cover that information and all of a sudden you are fucking destroyed by, Twitter, YouTube, all the liberals, Facebook.
Well, one of the things Vanessa said to me in the interview too was like, she goes, Graham, when we were covering this, you couldn't go into the civil war. The Syrian military would take all of the journalists together. And she's like, I'd be next to this guy from CNN and we would see that Assad didn't gas his own people. We'd interview people and it was all nonsense. And then the next day, this CNN guy puts this story out saying, oh, yep, Assad did this. And she was like, called him out on Twitter and was like, you're lying. I was standing right next to you. We saw the same thing. What are you talking about? And the Syrian military is coming after us. No, they didn't. They protected you. What are you talking about? And the guy just blocks her on Twitter. And then she gets attacked. And now the BBC is sort of trying to do some kind of lawsuit against her, which is just like, it's crazy.
Yeah, they need to crush people that reveal the truth, because not only is it bad for the governments, but it's bad for those media outlets for the truth to get out there.
Yeah.
And this has to do with Wikipedia as well. Wikipedia maligns and trashes any alternative media outlets that don't go with the standard imperial news coverage. Gray zone is called they have some term, a deprecated source or a diminished source or something on Wikipedia. Meanwhile, the New York Times, which is endless propaganda. I didn't even mention it earlier. I meant to. The New York Times, when Evo Morales was violently kicked out of the country, ran with the headline "The End of Tyranny." And so they put forward all this garbage propaganda, but if you go to Wikipedia, that's considered an official source and it's unimpeachable. So you can put all this New York Times garbage and Washington Post and everything into, even CNN, into Wikipedia, but you can't put like the gray zone.
Right. And it gets like, it's, and then also like, just like looking on Instagram, and there's like a post from RT, and it says Instagram puts state-sponsored media next to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then why don't you put like corporate sponsored media, like war machine sponsored media next to CNN's Instagram post?
Or for most of them, they don't put state sponsored next to BBC, which BBC is just the British version of RT.
Yeah. BBC is state sponsored. Why don't they get that? Why don't?
Yeah, they did that on the Redacted Tonight Twitter account as well, because it's underneath RT. So now, and it's even, they do it on YouTube as well, but at least on YouTube, you're looking at a whole page of content, whereas on Twitter, you got, a fucking 2 sentences and then a thing at the top that says, Russia's gonna get you.
This is
Margot is under your bed as we speak.
Well, Russia, I found out, just came up. They're rolling out. They have a COVID vaccine. They're rolling out to its citizens this month. And why don't we hear about that? Because American, pharmaceutical companies aren't going to profit from it. So,
well, I have heard some reports on like CNN or whatever, always trashing that Russia has a vaccine, and like they'll have Sanjay Gupta on or something, and he'll be like, "Oh no, it's so good. The Russian doctors are they're all maniacs, and they're just pumping people full of cat piss, and they're calling it a vaccine." And it's like, look, even if they, like the U.S., are rushing too quick, like maybe this is too quick to already have a vaccine, we should be fucking working together like goddamn humans, rather than this toxic nationalism of like, I was born inside of these borders, so that means I hate you.
It's so stupid. Like, if you're one of these Americans whose job has been screwed over, like many, and you're like, we need to open the economy back up. Wouldn't you want? I don't care where the vaccine comes from. I don't give a shit. But it's like, and it's they don't see the clear money thing, because like Sanjay Gupta says that it's gonna, if they're gonna inject you with socialism or whatever, this vaccine's gonna make you want free healthcare and get rid of oligarchs if they do that, and then they cut to an ad from Pfizer or Merck Pharmaceuticals or whatever right after Sanjay Gupta says that, and they don't make that connection, and it's like, the whole world should be working together to find this cure. And if Russia's got one, I'm in. Maybe they have rushed it. Maybe they are. Everyone's panicking.
Well, exactly. And China, it's like, these are some of the most sophisticated fucking doctors and scientists in the world, as are many in the U.S. It's like, boy, the best thing to do right now would be to have them all working together, wouldn't it?
Gee, wouldn't you want to share information on how we can all get this vaccine and go back to our lives? Like, I would kill to be, staying in some courtyard by Marriott by a freeway, driving to some shitbag gig or something like that. I'm totally doing that right now.
I want to get back to my real life, living in a flea hotel off a highway off-ramp, trying to convince strangers that they aren't thinking enough about the world.
Yeah. I want to drive to another town with Ron Capone. I don't know. He's changing his name. Doesn't make sense to me. The brand awareness, Ron. But, eating some like apple and a bagel from the free breakfast buffet. That's my lunch and the drive to the next town. I want to go back to that glorious life.
Listen, we all miss it. We all miss it. I want to go back to getting screwed over by club owners telling me they just didn't get more than 100 people in when 500 people were there. And so therefore they got to cut your wages.
Yeah. I want to go back to eating comedy club nachos in the green room because there was no time to go to dinner before the show. I want to go back to that glory day of like seeing a Subway next to the gas station was like, oh yay, finally healthy food. Like that's the
you got your yoga mat bread and your meat that came off a pig's forehead. The latest thing. So what was it? A few years ago, Subway. This is a government secret. Subway. People started talking about the fact that
secret bonus content.
It came out that Subway had an ingredient from yoga mats in their bread, And for some odd reason, people were upset with that. I don't know. I figure that means you can have a foot long and maybe it would help your flexibility.
Yes.
But
eating a yoga mat is just as good as doing yoga.
Yeah. So they took the yoga mat chemical out, but now in Ireland there was a lawsuit about whether, because they call their bread on the menu or whatever, and the lawsuit found that the courts found that they can no longer call it bread because of its sugar content, so they have to call it a confectionery or something. So basically, you're eating like 2 donuts with a fucking, GMO pig's anus and a tomato that was, grown inside a fucking plastic jar.
So that sounds, I want to go back to that. I want to go back to that, Lee. All right. Well, I think that's our show, buddy. That's a good Gov't, right?
I think that was one of our best. I think of the 7 other episodes we've done, I think that was one of our best.
This is our 29th episode. I'm so proud of it. Well, Lee Camp, where can people find all of your fine work that's being stifled by the oligarchs and the unelected tech billionaires that control social media?
Well, what you've seen today is my finest work, but my other work, you can watch Adolf More Than We Can Chew. There's some old videos on YouTube that you can enjoy. My Nazi sketch group. Also, Redacted Tonight is on YouTube. You can look that up. And Lee Camp.
More Than We Can Chew.
LeeCamp.com is where all my shit is. I have a podcast, I have live streams, they're all going on all the time, and it's at LeeCamp.com.
Oh, I cannot wait for more Adolf More Than We Can Chew. Hands down, my favorite sketch group, fake sketch group name is Adolf More Than We Can Chew. I cannot handle a Nazi-themed sketch group. Just fantastic. Adolf, I thought you were going to art school. No, I'm going to write Mein Kampf. Like,
oh, you have seen it.
Yeah, I love it. I love your guys' work. I love it. The writing, crisp. It's crisp writing. So you can check out my show, Political Vigilante, on YouTube, and please hit the subscribe button. Because YouTube is unsubscribing me at an alarming rate because they don't like the truth getting out there. Also, you can watch all my videos at Rockfin, ROKFIN, rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. And not the crypto that's a machine so the CIA can spy on you. We already have one of those in our pockets. So, go to GrahamElwood.com. I have a Patreon as well. And follow me on social media at Graham Elwood. And I go live like 4 or 5 days a week. So check.
And for those of you who don't know, if you just watch the video, this is a podcast. So please look up the podcast, give it a review, give it a thumbs up, share it, all that shit.
Yeah, we always forget to say that. So yeah, if you are listening to this on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, please, positive reviews, share it. And if you're watching this, please start downloading and listen on the audio side. You can get all the back catalog, all 4 to 35 episodes, since we don't know how to count that we've recorded already. Go download the back catalog, and it's a great free way to support what we're doing. So that's our show, I think, buddy.
All right, man. Good chatting. Let's hang soon.
Absolutely, dude. Always great doing this. Gets me out of my chronic, the world's going to endism, and gets me thinking about, I need my own Nazi-themed sketch group. No, the world's not going to end. It's just gonna feel like we all simultaneously shat our pants. It's going to be like that kind of day. It's not going to end. You'll get through it. When I saw that movie, The Road, that came out in like 2011 or 2012, I was like, oh, we're all going to be living this in the next 10 to 20 years.
Yeah. So, it's not that one was a real heartwarmer. That was,
if you're feeling down, watch The Road. Oh, Viggo Mortensen and cannibals. It is exciting. It really will make you wake up in the morning and go, we're going to get through this. It's going to work out. So check that out. All right, Lee, good seeing you, dude. We'll talk soon and we'll see you next week. Looks like we're doing Mondays. Mondays is more the better day.
Yeah. Mostly Mondays. Yeah.
Okay. Mostly Mondays. So that's our firm schedule. It's mostly Mondays.
Mostly Mondays. It's like I tell people with my live stream, I do every single weekday except sometimes.
Yeah. They're like, Graham, when do you live stream? I'm like, most days at a time that works out for me on that day. So,
guys, I'll be live streaming at a surprise time that will always excite you.
Yes. I want you to be always on your toes when you watch me. You never know when I'm coming. It's crazy. All right, buddy. Well, that's the end of Government Secrets, episode 13. Operation CIA.